comes to snook fishing in particular, what I would say is his top tier than the rest of the inshore fishing. He is just as good, if not better, than anyone else in the Tampa Bay area. But his specialty is nighttime dock light fishing for snook. And I told you guys last month, with this heat, as crazy it is, and all these crazy thunderstorms, the best time to go fishing is at night. So I thought I'd bring the best guy in the business. So without any further ado, Mr. Captain Dave Pomerleau, come on in, bud. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt your dinner.
All right. We'll start by saying I've never actually caught a snook. I've just done creative marketing. Pretty good. All right. Now, I've been at the snook game now for going on about 45 years. And since I was a kid, I started snook fishing in Sarasota in Midnight Pass when it was open. And here, as of late, hasn't been a whole lot of snook fishing going on. There's been a whole lot of red tide going on. 17 of my last 21 charters have canceled. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm looking at my bank account going, that's nice. But yeah, this red tide's something. It is something horrible. I live down near the Sarasota area, and from Sarasota south, it's just the further south you get, the worse it gets. I don't know what the answer is. I remember red tide being around when I was a kid. I just don't remember it quite this bad. I do remember back when I was about 14, 15, jogging up and down Siesta Key Beach. And it got to a point where I couldn't do it barefoot anymore because there was too many carcasses laying around, and I was stepping on spines of catfish and whatnot, and it was not good. So yeah, and I do remember the life grouper drifting up on the beach when I was about 10 years old on Siesta Key. So you know, I don't know what the answer is. I have no clue. But it's pretty bad. But anyway, you guys didn't come here to listen to me talk about red tide. Let's talk about snook fishing. Who here has never caught a snook? Anybody? Everybody's caught snook? Cool, nobody has to leave. All right.
Usually by accident.
Snooker, I would put it mildly, they're my obsession. I've been at the snook game for so long now, it's crazy. I've been like I said, for like 45 years, and I've pretty much wrecked my credit and messed up more relationships than I care to admit. I've had lots of women, it's like, hey, you going snook fishing again? Ooh, I gotta go. I do fish at night, hence this amazing tan I have, you know. Wow. I don't do the day game. The reason I fish at night is because it's probably 95% less people in the water. I don't have to deal with jet skis, wave runners. I don't have to deal with that heat. I certainly don't have to worry about skin cancer. I do worry about my moonburn and my lack of vitamin D. But I like to go out at night. It's just snook are very nocturnal. They're extremely nocturnal. I think they actually probably feed better at night than they do in the daytime. Certainly, you can catch plenty of them in the daylight, but most of my fishing is done from about 7 p.m. at night till about 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. And we usually start, just about an hour before dark, because there is a magic hour with snook. Right as the sun's going down, right before the sun goes down and as it goes down, and right as the sun's coming up and as it comes up, there's a sort of a magic time right there where snook really get very active. I know most of you are more familiar with that sun up first light, but I'll tell you what, when that sun's going down, there's a magic period right there where the snook are really active. Tides are crucial. One of the most important things of the tide, you've got to be able to watch your tides, watch your moon, your solar tables. They want moving water. They want a moving barometer. They want moving the moving barometer with a solar table. If you can get a moving barometer with a moving tide, with a full moon or a new moon 3 or 4 days before or after it, and if you can get the barometer active, say there's a front coming through in the late October, you got a front bearing down from the north, well, the barometer's falling. You got a big moon, you got fast moving water. Now you got to find some structure with some snook, some light, some current ripping around a corner. You got structure. You maybe have one of those hydroglow underwater green lights, big underwater green light with a bunch of snook piled up all facing into the current, and it's ripping around the corner. and you got that, and that barometer is active, and those snook are just, I love that sound. Chills down my spine. It's like, oh, snook, snook. I love that. Oh man, it's more often than not, over the years, people go, how did you learn spots from like Clearwater all the way down to Fort Myers and from Miami way up to almost Fort Pierce? Well, a lot of Miami to Fort Pierce was because of David Justice. I mean, he's one of the best snook fishermen that's ever come around. And he showed me a lot of that, took me to a lot of those places. And then I spent quite a few nights when he wasn't available, I went back over there. And I tried different spots in different locations. Sure, I fished some of his spots too. I did it, Dave, I'll admit it. But, you know, I learned a lot from Dave, and I learned a lot from Earl Downey, who wrote a book called How to Fish for Snook. I learned a lot from, I don't know if any of you remember Lauren Perucci, the man they called Mr. Snook. I learned a lot from him. I learned a lot from the old timers. I mean, the undisputed heavyweight champion, I didn't get to fish with a whole bunch at all. Only one time I got to fish with George Copeland. He's out of Fort Lauderdale, and he's the heavyweight champion of big snook in Florida, no doubt. And he actually, and Tommy Green, they taught David Justice how to do it. And then when many, many years ago, I learned a lot about big snook techniques from Dave Justice, you know, and he's the inventor of spool tech. Anybody familiar with spool tech? Great lure, fantastic bait. It's really, really innovative. But I've been chasing snook all over the whole state, and I'm kind of obsessed with them. And the weirdest thing is I can't eat seafood. I'm allergic to it. Can't eat fish. I don't even know what a snook tastes like. They tell me it's good. I don't know. I have no clue. I've heard hogfish is better. Cliff? Cliff, you would know. You've caught every fish under the sun. Cliff and I and my buddy Bruce, we recently went over the East Coast and just did some fun fishing over there. And in 3 days, we caught a 90 snook, and the smallest one was about 16 pounds. 16, 17 pounds. They were all averaging about 18 to 25 pounds, 26 pounds. And the water over there is amazing. We just go over there to goof off and go with another friend of ours named Steve. He's another captain, and we just get together with him and just go have a good time and no pressure. The fishing over here was really good up till about the time when all that red tide showed up. We were getting 50 to 60 snook a trip. Now, the weirdest thing that happened this year, I don't know, all you remember how much it rained in May? Man, it never stopped raining. We went from rain to heavy thunderstorms to red tide. I mean, it messed up my spring, summer. I have guys that come from all over the world, Japan, England, South Africa, to come catch big snook with me. And I told two of them to stay home. Don't come. The water's just junk right now. It was just dumping mud. I went from 57 snook over 40 inches in 2017. We landed 57 over 40 inches just here on the West Coast on my guide trips. I had to give away 57 of my goofy hat pins. I don't know if any of you ever seen these silly things, but got my Mad Snooker 40-inch club pin. I gave away 57 of these in 2017. This year I gave away 7. 7. I went from 57 to 7. That's down quite a bit. And that was water quality. The water was mud. The red tide was around. It was just horrible. We caught lots and lots of snook, but I couldn't get the big ones going on. I couldn't at all. So now what I have to do, you know, with the conditions now, I got to go from like North Sarasota Bay on up if I want to run a trip. And I haven't fished from Manatee County up into Pinellas in a long time, so I don't want to have to go relearn everything. So, you know, if you're not there all the time, if you're not fishing like here in Apollo Beach, you're not going to be on the fish. If you're not doing it on a daily basis, you know, like a captain should be doing it, a guide. So, you know, I would need to spend quite a few days doing it on my own before I would even dare take a charter. So I'm going to have to rethink things here for the fall. I hope this red tide goes away. I don't know what the answer on that is. You want to keep the tackle simple. There are 3 kinds of, actually, in my world, there's 3 kinds of snook. There's snooklet, there's snook, and there's snook. Snooklets are anything from like 18 to 25 inches, 26 inches. That's a small snook. Then you got snook, anything from like 27 to 36. Then over 36, once you get up to around 38, 40 inches on, 40 inches up, then I call those snook. That's a whole different animal. They don't even act like snook anymore once they get over 40 inches. They act like lazy couch potatoes. They don't feed for hours on end like the little ones. The little snook, they will pop. You can literally go up to a dock light. If you look at some of my videos on my YouTube channel, the Mad Snooker channel, you'll see these dock lights with 500, 300, 400, 500 snook laying underneath them sometimes. Most of the dock lights have anywhere from 50 to 100. Some of these dock lights I fish have 500 snook laying up, facing into the tide, and it sounds like Orville Redenbacher in a microwave. And it'll go on through the tide. It'll just keep active. But the big snook, the bigger ones, they wait for a certain part of the tide. They wait for a certain part of the moon. They wait for a certain part of the tide. Otherwise, they just lay there on the bottom and wait and wait. And when the conditions get right, they'll kind of go, And they'll come up and they'll start sniffing around. And they're not looking for a chicken McNugget. They're looking for a manwich. They want a foot-long Subway. They're not looking for, yes, an elephant, as Captain Scott Moore said, and I've always used this, Scott Moore gets full credit for it, an elephant will eat a peanut. Yes, a big snook will eat a glass minnow. He'll eat a shrimp. He won't turn his nose up to it, but he's not going to go out of his way to chase it. Now, you got a 2-pound mullet rolling up over its head, and it's time for that big snook, and you can actually see when it's time for the big snook, when you can see them. Their gills will start to flare. I've talked to divers, they say, Dave, their gills start flaring. It's almost like they're stretching. They're sitting there stretched out, getting ready. And all of a sudden, a school of mullet will pass up, and those big snook will rise up off the bottom, and that sounds like a cinder block. Boom. And like Cliff, when Cliff and I and Bruce, we were over there fishing on the East Coast down there in southeast Florida, and you get those big mullet down there, you know when it's about to get hit, don't you?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah? We're putting mullet on that big, on big old 7/0 circle hooks with 4-ounce egg sinkers down in about 35, 40 feet of water. And you can actually look over the side on the incoming tides, and the whole bottom is moving. It's all snook. And you look down and you go, oh yeah, somebody's about to get, and it's crazy. They thump them and they suck them in and they're gone. And yeah, that's hard. That's hard to beat.
It's too easy.
Yeah, it is ridiculous. It's drop bait, count to 3, set hook. And 90% of those fish, we didn't lift them out of the water at all. We just get them alongside the boat, probably 95%. We only took pictures of like 10 fish this trip. We caught almost 100 of them. And they're all like this and like that big around. And just get them with a circle hook, roll the hook out, let them go. Too often times I see pictures all over social media. Everybody's got to lay these snook down in the sand, lay them down on concrete, lay them in the rocks, to lay a fishing rod next to them to tell us, oh, it's this many rings or it's that many inches compared to, I don't want to see that. I try to be nice. I don't want to post up and say, I don't care how many inches it is. It's a nice snook. You want to impress me? Catch that nice snook, leave it in the water, unhook it, and film it in the water. We can see it's a nice big snook when the snook is still in the water. I don't want to see it laying on concrete or on the deck of a boat or in a net all being de-slimed and descaled, because when you take the stress coat off of any fish, you leave it susceptible to infection. And all that time that fish is out of the water, it just ran a marathon. And I tell these young guys, I say, you want to feel like that snook? Go outside, run around this building about 3 times as fast as you can, come through that door, and somebody puts a plastic bag over your head. Because that snook's not getting any oxygen when it's out of the water. So, it sounds extreme, and it is. But it is. It's true. The longer that fish is out of the water, the worse its chances are. And please, and I'm as guilty as anybody. I've got some videos on YouTube. The first 2 videos I ever put up, man, you should have seen the comments I got. Old photos from like 30 years ago, 25 years ago. You can look at them and tell they're Polaroids. That's how old they were. People holding snook straight up and down like this. And I'm like, ugh. And then Ron Taylor, when Ron Taylor was still a young man, Ron Taylor was probably in his early 50s then, and maybe in his late 40s, and he said, Dave, you can't do that. You're going to kill him. I said, what? And then we found out it was true. So we don't do that anymore. We belly support them in wet hands. You want to use indigenous baits. You want to match the hatch. You got to use, if they're eating glass minnows, by all means, you better be good with a fly rod. If they're eating small shrimp, the funniest darn thing, they don't want this shrimp. You can throw a shrimp way up tight to them. It's this big, but if this is the size that's dumping out, you gotta lighten your tackle up and throw that little shrimp up ahead of them, or use a weighted popping cork or whatever it takes to get them up ahead. But it's funny. You'll throw a big old shrimp like that. You think, wow, they're gonna pop that, and it comes through, and they go around it. They'll look at it and they go, mm-mm. Or if that shrimp's not alive, those little feet aren't moving, they don't want nothing to do with it. Now, if you're pinfish, you throw your pinfish, 15 times. You've whipped it out there. slaps the water. Well, 12, 15 casts, that pinfish is now going, whoa, whoa, whoa. He just looks like he's sort of like half out of it and drunk. And the snook will go, yeah, no. But if he first catch, you throw him out there. Have you ever noticed when you put a fresh bait on how fast it picks things up? Put that fresh pinfish on, maybe 5 inches long. Put it on about a 4/0 circle hook, 60-pound fluorocarbon leader with maybe 20-pound braid, 30-pound braid. Fresh first cast, you throw it up tight, you let it drift down, it becomes a living rattle trap. And as soon as he does that, it's like, oh, bam, game on. If you feel that bait going crazy on the other end of your line, thumping and banging and just, that's time to drop the tip. I always say bow, 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 bow down. And when you feel that thump, stick it. And people go, when do I set the hook? I said, when you feel them hit it. They don't have hands. If you feel them hit it, it's in their mouth. You wait too long with a J hook, you're going to throat hook them. That's why we use bronze hooks. Cliff, what'd you find out about bronze hooks for circle hooks?
Well, this is interesting. We were at Tommy Green's tackle shop.
I want to hear this.
This is a good tackle shop. What city is that in?
It's in Fort Lauderdale.
Fort Lauderdale. This place has been around forever. They've got a machine over there. It's like 100 years old, and I think it's massive. Looks like it came out of a factory. They use it. It's a tester. It tests the breaking strength of hooks and line and knots. And we tested the breaking strength on that machine of various hooks. And what we discovered was that circle hook breaks way quicker. I took a Mustad 92 671 BR, standard bronze offset J hook that I use offshore bottom fishing. And it broke at, I think, 97 pounds. And a comparable good owner, expensive circle hook broke at like 60.
Yeah, and the nice thing about the 92 671 series of hooks that are bronze, if you want to make a circle hook out of it,
You just
take
roll it. You just take a, they show, this is
two
the
pairs of
greatest.
pliers and twist it.
Just turn it into a circle hook.
And now it's a circle hook, and now it's the strongest circle hook that you can buy for pennies compared to those $1 hooks. And the neatest thing, if you have to leave this hook, this bronze hook, in a fish, even though it's a circle hook, sometimes they will get them in the gill or get them down deep. It's amazing. It happens. You've left it with a bronze hook that's going to rust away in no time. My favorite shrimp hook that I've ever used is a 92 671 size 2, not 202. It's a little bitty bronze hook. Greatest hook I've ever seen for snook fishing with shrimp. It matches the color of the bait. I don't like to put a bright shiny hook on a dark bait. I like to put a dark hook with a dark bait, but I just use these bronze hooks on everything now. And I make circle hooks out of my 92 671s. It's various sizes, and I'm just bending them. But when you put that little 92 671 size 2 hook, it doesn't weigh the fish down. But if you get that fish hook deep because somebody set the hook late, you just clip it, and that hook will be gone and rusted away in 4 days. They start to rust, don't they? They're rusting brand new off the package before you even get out there on the Hubbard's boat.
You know, and when they're on a 10 or 12 hour ride, they're rusty before I make the first drop. They rust on the way out.
That's how
and
fast.
They work better rusty.
They actually, it sounds like, I don't know. I'm not a biologist. I'm no biologist, but I don't know if a snook can get lockjaw from a rusty hook. I know we get a rusty nail in our foot, and we don't have a tetanus shot, and you get lockjaw, I've heard. I don't know. But anyway, I have no clue. But you want to match the hatch, use indigenous bait, find out what your tides are doing, go to a likely snook area. Now, up in this neck of the woods, some of the best snook fishing when I lived over in Town and Country, I used to go out to the Courtney Campbell Causeway at night. We used to fish at the old floodgates there, the big main bridge, the little bridge going into Clearwater. We would go out to Clearwater Pass on the old Sand Key Bridge, and we just caught the heck out of them there. We caught them on this big Pier 60 like crazy. We used to nail them up in the Hillsborough River. I mean, we would catch them at, oh man, I can remember being 3 o'clock in the morning standing at the old shuffleboard court dock at the old yacht club that was by the Nebraska Street Bridge, across the street from the Derby Doghouse. Yeah, the Derby Lane. Good neighborhood, huh? Oh, yeah. Yes.
You wrote down.
we drive in there at night, real quiet, shut our headlights off. A couple of us, we get out, we sneak down onto that dock. So we're down there fishing, and it just rained heavy, so there's water dumping out of the Hillsborough, dumping down the Hillsborough River. We would take bomber long A's, crush the barbs flat on the treble hooks so we could get them off much easier. Red and whites, the bomber long A, we would throw them toward the Nebraska Street Bridge and let them drift up under the bridge. As soon as they go under the bridge, we drop the tip down and start cranking. And the second they come to where this little hump was, where the water was rising up, going up over this log, the snook were laying behind the log, or whatever the heck was down there, causing that water eddy up like that. Second it would get right about there, and you could feel it coming up over that, it'd go boom, and you'd get a 16 to 25 pound snook. We were catching them one after another. We're sitting there catching snook, having a good time. All of a sudden this guy shows up in like a jail suit. He'd been in jail. He lays down on the dock. He goes, "You see any cops? Don't say anything." And I'm like, "Yeah, we're in a good spot, aren't we?" We had working girls walk down and, "Hey, baby, what you doing?" "We're snook fishing." "Go away." I mean, it was bad. We used to go to Platt Street, Boreen. We used to go down to Buffalo, I'm sorry, Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard now. It used to be called Buffalo.
Used to be Buffalo, man.
It used to be called Buffalo. Go up over the river there. We'd go down by Buffalo, and it's down Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard where it goes over the river, that bridge. We would go up underneath that bridge on an outgoing tide and throw bomber long A's down the shadow line and just whale snook. And we used to catch them all the time. We used to sneak in behind the hospital, Tampa General. You go up, where the helicopters sit, and all that. Well, here's the river coming down, and there's the point on Tampa General. And there was a seawall that just breaks the river going each direction. Well, if you stood on that point and then cast a bomber down this way and crank it down that seawall against the tide real slow, boom! Oh, man, we caught some tremendous snook there in Ballast Point Pier. And in the yacht club by Ballast Point Pier, we snuck in there too. We used to sneak into the Garrison Ship Channel at Picnic Island. Oh yeah, trespassing was my middle name. I didn't drink, I didn't smoke, I didn't do drugs. Never have, never will, but man, I did a lot of trespassing. Catch snook. We trespassed into the Palm River Spillway. We got yelled at and thrown out of there and told not to come back. We'd end up in the Orient Road Jail right next to it. We trespassed so many places, it was crazy. And I think I told this story once before, but it's worth repeating if you haven't heard it. We're standing at Treasure Island, blind past St. Pete. Everybody know what that is? Shaped like an L. They got a bunch of dredging going on right there. Well, there was a condo. He had, I think it was Woody's Bar, and then there was another restaurant up here on stilts. I don't remember the name of that place. But right over this little concrete wall about that high, there was a condo right there with a big swimming pool in it. And I was out there fishing one night with a buddy of mine. He said, "Dude, there's some monster snook out here. I can't get them." I said, "Where's that?" And I said, "Oh, yeah, I know that spot. Yeah, those big ones right there." I said, "I know how we can get them out of there, but it's not going to be pretty." He goes, "What do you mean?" I go, so I showed up with an 18-foot Calcutta cane pole, Burma rod. And I took a great big shrimp about that big. I hand-picked some Gandy bait tackle. And I said, "All right, you ready? Get over there, get out of the way." And I just take that Calcutta pole, and he kept getting broke off. And these were snook like 40, 41, 42 inches. And so I go like this. I go, "All right, I'm going to land this fish. Get out of the way." Slammed it into the ground, went like that, and come flying up over the wall, hit him dead in the chest, and he and that 20-pound snook landed in the swimming pool at 3 o'clock in the morning. The entire place woke up. Lights were coming on. I could see people coming out in the balcony. He's in the swimming pool with a snook going. I yanked the snook out of the pool, and he wants to eat it. And this is way back, many, many years ago. All right, so we cut the line. He grabs the snook, throws it over the wall. I throw this Calcutta pole into the bushes. We jump over the wall, and we're running. He's soaking wet, carrying a snook to my truck, throws it in the bed of my truck. We take off. We weren't going down the road, we weren't down the road 3 minutes, and red and blue, 2 of them coming that way, headed right toward that condo, cops. And I was like this. We went back 3 days later, and that Calcutta pole was still in those bushes. I grabbed it. Yeah, that's some of the crazy stuff we used to do. But you gotta have fun with it. Where you want to try to catch snook up here? I don't come up here enough to really give you like great locations. I know there's snook all over Apollo Beach, Alafai River, Palm River. I don't know if you guys still get into Port Tampa? Can you?
You said some pretty good areas. Recently, you just said some pretty good areas.
Okay, well, yeah, it's all great. There's great snook fishing up in here. Usually when I think of snook fishing up in here, I think of Snooky Bear. Art Pilot.
Oh, yeah?
You know, I think of Snooky Bear, and he's a trip. I've done TV shows with him and Glenn Plow, the average angler, where they had me dressed up like a vampire, Count Snookular.
I saw that,
Yeah, I don't want to do that again.
I liked it.
Yeah, but you had a mess of fun doing it.
I had a lot of fun doing it, but when you walk through the Florida Sportsman Show at the conventions at the state fairgrounds, and you got 8-foot wings on your back, and every other guy is sitting there looking at you, shaking their head, and I'm going, it's like the walk of shame.
Not known for no money.
Look what Glenn Plow talked me into. Yeah, but yeah, I kind of miss it, but it was fun. But a lot of the things that I try to tell people about Snook is, if you're having a great trip, you're having a great night, the snooker biting, you got a great bite going on. I would quickly go home and write down, what was the tide doing? What time of year was it? Well, write in a calendar. This tide, this moon, the weather was doing this barometer, the water temperature. I was using this with this. Catching snook is like baking a cake. If one of the ingredients is missing, the cake doesn't come out right. One of the ingredients can often be stealth. One of the craziest things I see people do when I'm out snook fishing, and we'll be sitting there catching them one after another, after another, after another, and I got 2 boats to my right, 1 boat to my left, and they're not catching a thing, and they literally stop and go, "What are you guys using?" And I yelled down, "Fresh live squid." Totally joking. And I told one guy one time, I said, I held up a lively looking, real live looking squid lure, and I said, I get them at Tarpon Springs at the Sponge Docks. I got a call 3 days later from the guys at Tarpon Springs. "Dude, did you send somebody up here looking for live squid?" He's going to kill you. Literally happened. It's a true story. But no, what I'm noticing that they're doing different is they've got a radio going. They're thumping their hatches. They're not placing their anchor over, or they're not using the anchor at all. They're using their trolling motor, which trolling motors are great. I love Rodan. My Rodan trolling motor is fantastic. I used to move from place to place to place. But if I get to a spot and the current's ripping, I'm going to shut that thing down, and I'm going to ease that sea claw anchor over nice and quiet and lay it in there. And the last thing I want to do is have a bunch of lights on and a radio going, people banging hatches and thumping and squeaking, even rocking the boat. You rock the boat, you put a pressure wave off, and those snook pick up on that pressure wave. So what I see is people making too much noise, or they're throwing a shrimp this big with a 3 and a 4/0 hook, a big chrome one no less. They got too big a hook and too small a bait. Or they're throwing a bomber long A at snook that are eating bait, like this big. They're throwing bombers. They're throwing bait in places where there's no snook capable of eating it, if you're trying to catch regular snook. It's usually too much noise, it's a bad presentation, or too heavy a leader, or as soon as I look over and he's got the spinning reel upside down like this, or he pulls up in a pontoon boat. No, I'm kidding, I'm joking. I'm joking. Not all pontoon boats are bad, not all.
Or it could be as simple as closing the bail with the reel instead of with your hand.
Yep, I always just step. When I cast, 99% of the time, before my bait hits the water, I got the bail closed by hand already. I don't use the handle. I just go, and people go, snook will eat plip. They don't eat plop. And they go, what? I go, you see all the snook right there? And there'd be like 50 snook lined up into the tide. I said, throw a shrimp over there, let it just go. And they go, well, how do you get a shrimp to go plip instead of plop? I go, you go like this. You throw it at an angle, and you close the bill right before it hits, and it's like air brakes. It goes, burp, blink, and it lands like a feather. And you keep that tip up, and always, whichever way the tide's going, I keep that rod tip going the same way the tide's going. And you get the angle right. I always say it's the angle of the dangle, puts a tingle in their dingle. And they just, it's just like, boom. If you get the angles right, and you get the presentation right, with a good live bait on the right size hook with the right size leader, and you keep all the fray out of your knot, because that little fray in your leader glows. It's a weak spot and it's a bright spot. It's a glowing spot. And if you get your presentation right, you're on, and you set your boat in the right place. A lot of people don't get their boat set in the right place. You got to have the boat in the right spot with the right angle to work the tide. Shrimp do not swim against a hard outgoing tide against the tide. They don't sit there going, and the snook are lined up like this, and here comes a shrimp over the top of their head, and he goes, whoa, it's super shrimp. They don't eat super shrimp. They eat that shrimp that's flowing with the tide. They eat that shrimp that's dancing out of the water. The greenbacks, They'll eat bait. You can't even believe the size of a bait that a snook will eat. I mean, snook will eat a ladyfish that's 20 inches long, like it's a Hershey Kiss. Literally, a 20-pound snook will come up and just boom. Captain Bobby over here has worked with the Marine Laboratory for many years. He's got the Presidential Volunteer Award from the President of the United States. That's pretty impressive. He got an award from the President, a volunteer award. And at the hatchery, when the snook are this big, they have to have to get these snook away from the snook that are just an inch bigger, because the ones that are an inch bigger will eat them. They eat them. You got a 5-inch snook eating a 4-inch snook. That tells you something about where their heads are at. They're not afraid. I almost leaned, I swear I've leaned over bridges and they go, come on, drop that 3-pound mullet down here. I'm not scared. I've had big mullet on, live, huge mullet. One time I was fishing with a good friend of mine here in Tampa Bay. He's a guy, Captain Joey Esque. Joey goes, no, they're not going to eat a mullet that big. I said, Joey, we get on there. He pitched it up underneath this little bridge and it went, caught the biggest snook of his life on the first cast. It was about 30 pounds, 33 pounds, and it ate about a 3-pound mullet. So they're not afraid. So there's no such thing as a bait too big.
How do you rig those big baits like that?
Well, it depends on what you want that mullet to do. If you're going to fish that mullet into a heavy current, down current from you, maybe with an egg sinker, I'm going to nose hook it. Now, but if I'm standing on a dock and I'm standing on a bridge, I'm going to hook it up front. And this is a trick that was passed on from George Colpin to Dave Justice, and Dave passed it on. He taught me it. You take the mullet and you hook them up in front of the pec fin underneath. And when you toss that mullet out or you're doing a pendulum cast, if you want that mullet to go down, which is what you want, you tug on that line and invert that mullet, get him all disorientated. When you tug on that line, turn him upside down and go down. When he goes down, whoop, follow him, thump, he'll get thumped. Yeah, that's usually it's a good way to turn a mullet upside down. But what I've had to do in the past, even when I was using mullet before I learned about inverting the mullet many years ago, what I learned was when I'd have a mullet nose hooked and I'd be standing on the second bridge at Matt Lachey. Anybody been to Pine Island? Well, there's that second little flat bridge. It's all shouldered. It's super shallow now. But what I used to do, when the moon was up, there was a shadow line, and the snook would lay underneath that bridge. And we used to take mullet about that big nose hook, and we would just literally go like that and sling them under the bridge. Well, they'd shoot out from under that bridge like a rocket, like the devil himself was after them. They'd come out of there, whoa, 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 and I'm like, oh, you don't like it under there. Back up under there. And it comes shooting out there like a rocket, and I go, okay, we reel it up, and I just go like this. I go, hope there's no mullet rights activist here tonight, because I take that mullet and I go, bam, into the seawall. And I'll get him a little goofy, and then throw him up under there, and now he's like a pinball, going bing, bong, bing, 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 bong, bong, and all of a sudden you hear, oh yeah, bam, and just, hit him hard and get him out. But if you didn't use the heavy tackle that we used in those bridge, you wouldn't get him. 60-pound mono didn't do it. 60-pound mono went, snap. We went to 80, snap. Went to 100, still getting broke off on 100. These were big snook, no doubt. But I can't even tell you how many times I've been broke off 100. Hey, Cliff, how many big snook did we lose using 80?
Lots.
A lot. Over there, we were way down southeast Florida, and we were using 80-pound braid. And these snook would do what they call go over the ledge. And basically, they come off an edge and they drop into a channel. And they would drop into the channel, and they get you in the coral or the rocks or whatever's down there. And you're like, what do we use next? Rope? And when a big snook's feeding, when they're on and really on, I swear you could tie it to 550-pound nylon rope. Put a hook on it if you could thread it. And they'd hit it, they'd hit it. They don't care. I mean, ask Ben Chansey. I watched him do it, catch a 26-pound snook on a sail cat using Goliath grouper rig. I think he was fishing like 300-pound test on his leader, and he caught a 26-pound snook on a sail cat. It's on YouTube. It's crazy. Those are the same that Ben's the guy that catches all those giant Goliath grouper and uses hand lines with gloves.
He's got all the scars on his hands.
Yeah, well, Ben is probably one of the strongest guides in the guide business. He's an absolute stud. He's like Mike Anderson. Mike Anderson and Ben Chansey, two strongest guides I know. Anywho, I don't like to use a lot of lead unless I'm fishing deep water like on the East Coast, then we gotta use egg sinkers with knocker rigs to get them down. I like to use as little lead as I can possibly get away with. Split shots on, tiny little split shots on shrimp, maybe a little bigger split shot with a pinfish. If you're using a grunt, well, a grunt will just go to the bottom on its own. It'll find the first rock and go up underneath it. That's a pain in the neck. Mullet, oftentimes they're so fast, you got to slow them down a little bit. Ladyfish, you can't multiply cast them a lot. The more you cast them, 5 casts, they're usually done. And then it's kind of swallow, they're not good for multiple casts. A mullet, you can put on the hook and you can fish that guy for 6 hours. I mean, they just go and go and go and go and go. They're the toughest bait I could think of. Certainly greenbacks in the daytime are the best way to go. And I really feel for these guides that go out to that Skyway Bridge every day to get bait. I'm like, oh man, no, thank you. I don't remember the last time I threw a cast net for bait, other than mullet and sand perch. But it's throwing a cast net to catch greenies under the Skyway. I don't know, maybe 15 years ago. I did it once, twice. I used to go out there with Rachel Navi, and she was first getting in the business, and she could throw the net better than I could. So, but I don't go to the Skyway to get bait. But if you want to catch some really big snook, I would look up in Alafai River. I'd look in the Palm River. I would look in Port Tampa. I don't know how far you can get in there anymore after all that 9/11 stuff. They changed everything. Garrison Ship Channel, underneath the Gandy Bridge. The Gandy Bridge on the St. Pete side of the Gandy Bridge, some monsters over there. Now again, all that changed in 2010, with that freeze we had. I don't know what they're going to do as far as the ruling now with all the snook and all the bait and everything that got killed from, like, say, bottom end of Sarasota South. I don't know what they're going to do. I have no clue. I sure hope something changes pretty quick here, because I am losing trips like crazy, and nobody wants to go. They're all calling me up going, nah, I don't want to go. I don't want to go. So, anywho, anybody got any questions about anything about snook? I can't tell you anything about anything else.
Well, I ask you the question, the golden question, mono or fluoro at night?
Mono or fluoro? I still love fluoro.
Really?
You know what? But here again, think about it. We used monofilament leader for years and years and years, and we did fine. So, do you really need fluoro? I don't know. Let's test it.
I use mono and I don't have a problem.
Let's test it. I'll go back to mono and see how that works. All I know is if you're going to stick that fluorocarbon in your teeth to cinch it or bite, you don't want that stuff. It's pretty toxic. Yeah, mono's a whole lot better for you than if you're going to put it in your mouth. You don't want fluorocarbon in your mouth. Don't put that stuff in your mouth. You can even taste how nasty it is. Another goofy thing a lot of people don't think about: bug spray. Anything that's got deep woods off, get it on your watch. It's plastic. Get it on your handle on your reels and watch it melt. Whoa!
I'll give you one worse when you're duck hunting. You get 100% deep.
Yeah.
You go to put it on your neck, put it on your beard and everything. You get a little bit on your hand, and all of a sudden you go like this. You won't feel your lips for about 3 days.
Yeah.
That's a fact.
So anything that can do that, I don't want it on me.
Well, if it keeps the mosquitoes away, it doesn't have
Bass Pro Shop sells a mosquito repellent. Now, Cliff works at Bass Pro Shop part-time, and they sell a mosquito repellent there that doesn't eat your gear. It comes in a white, I don't know, you remember what it's called?
Insect or
You know,
something?
I don't know, I just know deep works.
I know, but it's exactly what he said. If something makes my lips numb and it melts my reel, and it's killing my bait, I don't want it on my skin.
Is that sunset?
It might be
Sunset's good.
sunset, something.
Sunset's really good.
It's actual sunscreen and bug.
So I don't use a lot of sunscreen. No, I don't use sunscreen at all. But anywho, trying to think.
Nose hook, belly hook,
Nose hook, belly hook, in regards to what type of bait?
pinfish, grunts.
Pinfish. If I'm fishing a really heavy current, I'm going to nose hook a pinfish. If I'm fishing a mediocre current, I'm going to back hook him. Now, if I'm fishing no current at all, and I'm going to open the bail and let that bait just kick away and run away from me, if it gets nervous, I'm going to hook him right toward the back of the anal fin. Very shallow back in there, right toward the back of the tail. And in that situation, I'll throw the bait out and I'll just open the bail and let him. He gets nervous and he'll run away, and all of a sudden you'll feel get on them. But if it's a really hard current, I'm going to nose hook them for sure. But shrimp, I never, ever, ever in my life have gone to Gandy Bait Tackle or any bait shop like that and seen shrimp in the tank, moonwalking, swimming backwards. So I don't tail hook them. Now I know they do redfish and they do trout and all that, but I always horn hook a shrimp and just pull them naturally with the tide. I do see guys bite the tail off and hook them through the tail and roll them like that. I guess it works for something, but you throw that same tail, you rip the tail off a shrimp, roll that hook through, and then pull him backwards through a school of snook, and they'll literally almost start laughing. Those snook will go, look at this stupid thing. They won't hit it. I've tried it just out of stubbornness. I wanted to try it. And I've pulled shrimp backwards through the light, and the snook go, it's just, you know, they're not, there's no expression on their face, but they're sort of like looking at it like, no, they won't hit it. And if the shrimp's dead, if those little legs aren't moving when you pull it through the light, they don't want it. They want a live shrimp. Now, when they're starving, I fished a red tide back around the 90s. I don't remember what year it was. The red tide was so bad, every one of my 10 dozen big shrimp I got from Gandy, Trapman's this time, Trapman's on Gandy, every one of those big shrimp died before we even got where we were going. And I got down to the Stickney Point Bridge in Sarasota, and I was drifting back with split shot, stone dead shrimp, and we caught like 60 snook on dead shrimp. I'm just sitting there going, what the? They were that hungry, there was nothing else around. These were fresh dead, and they ate them and ate them and ate them and ate them and ate them. And yet there was dead fish floating by, but the actual organism hadn't got all the way up into the middle of that bay like that, because it has to come from either the Venice Jetty or Big Pass in Sarasota, and then come all the way in and then meet almost in the middle. Not quite in the middle, but it'd have to come an awful long way in to get to Stickney Point. And the snook were piled up in there by the ton that night. We caught like 60 of them. Most of them were like that. It was great. And, but, you know, red tide, I think what a lot of the snook have done in that are in that area, red tide, they have shot up inland. And I know a lot of snook, they live offshore, and they've probably gone way offshore. Snook are pretty smart. And I know dolphins are a lot smarter, yet I'm seeing dead dolphins, and that's scary.
Yeah.
That's scary. When you see dead dolphins, as smart as they are, wow, it takes something serious to catch a dolphin off guard. I haven't seen a dolphin in like 3 months down in the Venice area at all. I've not seen one dolphin. All the rain ran them off, and then the red tide, I haven't seen any dolphin anywhere. But, yes, sir.
If you're fishing and getting a few reasonable ones, does that mean that there's going to be bigger ones down below them? Or
sometimes that is true, because the bigger snook, whenever you catch a big snook, just leave them in the water and look, and you will look at that anal fin in the bottom of that tail, and they're all scraped up. Just kind of scuffed looking, because they spend so much time scruffing along the bottom. So the bigger they are, the more the bottom rollers they are. They're lazy. They're like a couch potato. They don't want to come up, and they don't want to hang in those schools of males, because those males will just beat bang off them. They surround them. Have you ever seen snook spawning? What you'll see is like 2 or 3 females surrounded by like 50, 60 males, and they're swimming in a circle. And you could literally come up and just drop like corks on their head, and they just don't care. It's like they're oblivious. And they're just floating with the outgoing tide, floating down. And I've seen it many, many times. And, but when the females aren't in the mood to spawn, the little males are kind of like little pests. You know, they're just beating, bumping into them and falling around, and it just, you know, after a while, how much of that you want? You want to get away from where those males are. So, and most of the time, you know, I don't know if everybody's aware, the big ones are all females. All the giant ones, those are females.
What inch length do they actually,
From what I've understood, from what I've heard, it's like 28 to 30 inches is when they do the Bruce Jenner. Oh, I'm sorry, what did I say? They sex reverse? No, I'm sorry, man. You're recording this?
Oh, yeah.
You might want to cut that part out. I don't want to get sued.
You're good.
God bless him, you know. If that's what he wants to do, that's his thing.
That's living with Kardashians for a bunch of years.
I could do it. Yes, sir.
Do you ever fish dead bait for snook, like have them on dead bait?
I've done it. I have used cut bait, and it's kind of boring. When you use cut bait, you certainly do not want to do it with anything other than